I have
I,
to look off and
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Mann Marotta, a member of Compassionate Ridgefield's mental health group, here with another episode of Stress Busters, How Ridgefield Copes. For those of you who have seen other episodes, you'll know that this program, which we're doing in collaboration with the Ridgefield Library, has the goal of helping each of us feel a little bit less alone with our stress. And we're doing that by interviewing members of the Ridgefield community about the things that stress them out the most during this crazy pandemic time, and what they have found to be most helpful in dealing with their everyday stressors. Tonight, it is my great pleasure to interview a very longtime Ridgefield community member, very active member, Andrea Reeves Beebe. Andrea is a retired special ed teacher of the Westport school system, but by no means retired in general. She's an incredibly active member of our community. She is currently serving as one of the members of the Ridgefield Commission on Aging. She's one of the administrators of Ridgefield, Connecticut's senior Facebook page. And I know how busy her life is, so it's by no means retired. And jumping right in, I actually wanted to start by welcoming you, but asking you also to describe kind of what a typical week was for you before the pandemic struck, because I think it'll give people a measure of how much has changed for you.
well, before the pandemic arrived, my husband and I enjoy traveling, and we have children. We have a son and daughter-in-law and a granddaughter in New York, and we have the same in London, England. So as it turned out, when the COVID restrictions hit, it was the day we were flying home from London. So we actually flew home to quarantine. And thank you to Lisa. Lisa did my grocery shopping for me when I first got home, because back then you quarantined for 14 days and you weren't allowed out of your house. So prior to that, our days were filled with going to Founders Hall and taking classes. I love the educational courses. I love pickleball. My husband would do art classes and pickleball. And so we're very involved with the pickleball community here in town. And that took up a lot of our time. It was a great way, a great activity. It was a great way to meet people. My social group grew because I had this wonderful community of retired athletes, as I would say. And we all got together and played. I would take, classes such as knitting. I read a lot. I would go into the city and see shows.
Yeah.
I was just museums, anything that I could do to stay active and to continue learning. And then when March 14th hit, the day we arrived from London, it was almost as if we walked into a brick wall when we got home, because we literally got home and walked into where we lived, and we didn't leave for 14 days.
Yeah.
And that was hard.
And so, I mean, basically, a life filled with travel, concerts, classes, committee meetings. That's about as right. That's about as out in the world as you could possibly get. So, how have things changed? I mean, we know the answer to some of it, but how for you, and what has been the most stressful part of the change, I guess, is.
I think one of the most stressful for us, or I'm also speaking for my husband, he's not here, but is our inability to go out in the world freely, to see our friends freely, to visit with family members. We have family members who we can't even visit with because they're compromised. It's that restriction on the ability to be part of. And I think that's the hardest part. I mean, completely able to spend time with myself. I like the downtime, but too much downtime for me is not a good thing. So, by getting out into the community and being of service has been a tremendous outlet for me to stay connected, to feel as though I'm paying it forward to helping others, to helping myself. I mean, all of those things together are integral in just staying positive right now, because some days it's not as easy to be as positive
No,
as it is other days. And the weather now changing has also been
yeah, it's hard.
difficult.
So say you're at home and it's just one of those difficult days.
Mhm.
Would you you talked about paying it forward and sort of giving back to the community. How do you do that in this time?
Well, because I sit on a few boards, which have kept me very busy now, because most of our interactions and meetings are on Zoom,
And
and
these are volunteer
these
boards,
are
correct?
volunteer positions.
Okay.
So with the Commission on Aging, I work hand in hand with various people on the commission. We do a lot of things outside of our commission meetings. We right now are looking at a letter writing campaign for people to be in contact with a lot of our seniors. I'm involved with the pickleball committee commission with and the work in town. And I also just joined a board for Neighborhood Studios, which is an inner city arts program for the children and families of Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Mhm.
And that's been something that I've kind of been on the periphery for a number of years, but now am an active participant in helping to develop the program and reach children, especially in Bridgeport, who need an outlet of the arts, of music, of dance, of theater, and 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 watching how it inspires these young people.
Mhm.
So between those three committees right now, I stay pretty busy on Zoom meetings, phone calls, writing proposals, etc. I'm also taking online courses. So today, for a fact, I had a Zoom meeting with a group I've been taking a class with for 6 months, and one of our participants is from India. And it's really interesting to be on a Zoom call with people from around the world and hearing what's happening with COVID where they live and
Yeah.
what they're doing, and how really our situations and our experiences are so similar, you know?
So basically, I mean, you're getting out of your own head
Mhm.
by sort of getting into the heads of other people.
Well, yeah,
In the
absolutely.
best sense of the word. I mean, the Zoom, those of us who really, certainly, I never had any connection to Zoom before COVID. And so, the sort of sense of being able to be out in the world in a different kind of way,
Mhm.
and connecting with people who you actually might not have been connected with, in other circumstances. That's actually one way to sort of begin to forget about the limitation, because we are
Right.
struggling all the time with how much loss we feel, how deprived, somehow it's we're not able to do this, we're not able to do that. Um, and
But,
yet,
yeah.
there are other ways that you can be out in the world.
Well, I also think it's imperative that each of us find a way to reframe how we think.
Mhm.
So if I'm having a day where I'm a little down, I I I really have to almost go through a physical action to reframe how I feel and reframe how I look at the world. So I might say something as simple as, well, you know what? I got up today. I got my clothes on. I had breakfast. I got to have my coffee. I'm a lot luckier than a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I do things like that. Get up and move a muscle, change of thought. So we'll take a walk
Yeah.
a little bit, or
I love that. Move a
anything to
muscle,
get
change
out
the
of
thought.
myself.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that we've done because of Zoom is we started a biweekly pub quiz. So in London and all of the pubs, they have teams that play weekly or or even nightly trivia games. And they have teams and they compete against each other. So starting in April, a group of us from Denmark, Singapore, London, Connecticut, and where's the other person? Delaware. We come together and we have a pub quiz, and each of us takes a turn writing the quiz. And I tell you, we have more fun on that. It's silly. It's fun, and then and it's just a good time.
So it's virtual trivia night.
It's virtual trivia night.
Or morning, depending on where you live.
Right. But it's really interesting because we've got people from around the world that have joined in on this. And we all know each other somehow. So it's like,
I love the idea of reframing, and it sort of segues to something that I knew we were going to talk about, which is knitting. Because Andrea and I share a love of knitting. It's something that I came to just 3 years ago. And I joined a class at our local yarn shop, Nancy O's, which is just a spectacular place. And Andrea was already a part of that class. And it was a great collaborative experience. It continues to be. Sometimes we've done it by Zoom. We've done it socially distanced outside with masks on. But we have talked a lot about the process of knitting, because I can hear people saying, oh, I'm not coordinated. I can't do it. I make mistakes. You have to be focused. And inevitably during our knitting classes, somebody will say, oh my God, I dropped a stitch, or, oh yeah, I have to put, like, what am I going to do? This isn't adding up. And
or I knitted when I should have purled.
I knitted when I should have purled. And so, talk a little bit about that as one, I guess, a coping strategy, because it's got its own form of sort of meditation.
Well,
but
I think that knitting is a perfect metaphor for internal focus. So, when I'm knitting, it depends. Like if I'm knitting in front of a television at night, it has to be a simple stitch, because if it's a complicated pattern, forget it. But when I have the time and I can sit quietly and just knit, it's very meditative. It's almost a challenge to see, can I do this? And if I drop a stitch, as we all learned from Lisa here, there's this wonderful philosophy called wabi-sabi, which is the perfection of imperfection, the beauty of not being perfect.
Beauty of not being perfect.
The ability to kind of laugh at yourself, the ability to let it go. That, not all things have to be the way they have to be, but they can be different. Yeah. And what a neat philosophy. And we often use that as kind of our
mantra, right?
Mantra in our knitting class. And it's just been great. And I've used it now into other areas of my life. Even like, say, we'll go back to pickleball. Mm-hmm. I missed a shot that should have been so simple. Okay, I let it go. It's not that important. I'm not going to go to the Olympics at 62 playing pickleball. I'm there to have fun. And that's the way I kind of have to look at a lot of these things now. So they're discrete skills that permit me for a moment in time to focus, stay quiet, and to give my mind a rest. My mind, when it goes all the time, I get tired.
Yeah.
And I need to recharge. So for me to recharge, even on down days when I'm kind of quiet and I'm a little bored, it's really important that I have those moments where I can just sit and be quiet and do something, or not do anything at all. Mm-hmm. I could just sit and look out the window and dream. I can read a book and escape. I don't really watch a lot of TV during the day, but I do love historical fiction movies, and then I can pretend I'm there. So, giving myself that permission to escape. I hate to use that word, but to escape for a brief moment in time, kind of just recharges my batteries.
Yeah.
And gives me permission to not have to be not to have to feel as though I have to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm so far from being perfect. So.
Well, I mean, I think that's the human condition, right? We're all so far from being perfect. Mm-hmm. And it's when we try to put that we should be perfect on ourselves, that things get difficult. And so just to pull back, because you've said so many things that I think are useful, and I just want to sort of reiterate them, that essentially when you feel stressed out and when you feel sort of limited in what you can do, you tend to try to get out of that internal experience by either working for somebody else's benefit, working as a volunteer. There are lots of volunteer opportunities in Ridgefield and around the whole state, by essentially getting out of your head by connecting with other people, taking courses, thinking about something else, or just basically getting internally quiet by knitting, allowing yourself to get involved in the process as opposed to the goal of something, and just
Absolutely. So
decompressing.
I think that for me, I can't be an all or nothing person. I have to have a little bit of everything, because otherwise I would wear out. I know myself well enough at this point in my life that I can't go like I used to go when I was 25 and all burners burning. I need time to recharge. I also appreciate the quiet time now. And the times I really look forward to are with my family, and having grandchildren now makes a big difference. And watching them figure out and navigate the world makes me realize, we all have so much to learn. We never stop learning. So it's that curiosity. And I think that in retirement, my curiosity has increased, that I want to learn so much that I wonder, do I have enough time?
Yeah.
So again,
Well, here we are.
I'm overwhelmed with that too. So I have to be careful.
So that goes back to, again, something you said, which I think is maybe a great way to end the interview, which is the reframe, that there's always a way to take something which is difficult and figure out a little piece of it that might be positive. And as you said, move a muscle, change a thought. I love that. And on that note, Andrea, thank you so much for talking to us and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank
Everybody,
you, Lisa, for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
We're in this together. It's tough. There's no doubt that we all are going to feel, sort of the difficulty and the stress of it, but we will get through it. And, we look forward to seeing how we all do it in other episodes as well. All right. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you.